Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at what would happen if Ainz came to the new world at level 1. And in today's episode, we continue after the defeat of the Six Arms and the alliance of Ainz with a certain golden princess. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. The Royal Palace of Rolente, home to the Vaislev family for over 200 years by now. Since the very days of the end of the evil gods, those damnable demons that once ravaged this region, it had never seen a being as powerful, monstrous, and malevolent as the one standing before Prinzess Renner and her loyal bodyguard, or rather watchdog in training. Climb, if you get my drift. 6 undead creatures created from the remnants of the leaders of the Six Arms stood in a room, grouped in pairs of 3 on either side. And before them, at a richly decorated table, with exquisite porcelain on it, sat the creator, a powerful elder lich who introduced himself as Satoru Suzuki, and he openly revealed himself as an undead in this very room. No mask concealed his skeletal, snow-white face, which was even paler than the tablecloth. Yet Climb thought he detected a hint of sorrow and nostalgia in this motionless face of death itself, as if the undead creature was longing for something that stood right in front of it. For a brief moment Climb wondered if this monstrous being was reminiscent about its time among the living, yearning for the taste of the tea and the pastries before it. But Climb quickly dismissed these thoughts. Nothing could be allowed to distract him. He was no longer a starving street urchin, but the bodyguard of Prinzess Renner, and if these negotiations went awry, he had to be ready to buy Renner enough time until the palace guards arrived, or the blue roses rushed to her aid. But even the golden princess attendant understood why this little tea party, where no one took a single bite, felt so unnerving. Climb, of course, did not so, because he was in his subordinate position. Renner did not eat or drank out of respect for the undead, and the undead itself couldn't do it because its body no longer allowed it. Yet something reassured Climb in this tense situation: Renner's composure. She addressed the undead with perfectly measured politeness and diplomatic finesse, seemingly managing to enlist this enemy of all of the living beings to her very own cause. Once again Climb's admiration for her grew, and perhaps a few other feelings as well. And even if he did not fully understand the details of the plans being discussed, he could grasp the overall direction, now that the Six Arms, the elite fighting unit of the 8 Fingers, had been eliminated, and 3 Death Knights and 3 Death Warriors had been placed at the kingdom's disposal. Undead, created from the very remnants of this once powerful force. Renner's own forces, which included the Blue Roses and himself, had become the most powerful military force in the kingdom by far, even though their numbers were still small. But these undead warriors and their mysterious leader at least made up for the loss of Garzev Stronov. And Climb was well aware that now, with the theocracy of slain finally having finished cleansing Irantel, and the undead Cat's plane would find their way into the heart of the now defenseless kingdom. But now, with their increased military strength and superior elite troops, they would at least be capable of stopping the 4 Knights of the Empire, if necessary. Unfortunately, these forces could not be used to maintain order in the royal capital, and the very weakness of the 8 Fingers had left a power vacuum, and now every gang and even the small thieves guild saw their chance to seize control of the underworld all for themselves. Even now, much to Climb's worry, in this very secret chamber of the palace, hidden from prying eyes of maids and butlers, the unrest in the capital was unmistakable. Distant screams, the clash of weapons, footsteps growing ever closer and closer. Marquis Bouloup was in despair after the unexpected death of the kingdom's strongest warrior, after the fall of Gazev and the downfall of the fortress city of Ubantel, the king's very own domain. The weak King Ramposa was supposed to be quickly overthrown with minimal losses, and then with renewed strength and unity they would turn to face the invading empire. A prolonged conflict and any surviving relatives of Crown Prince Barbaro, which was supposed to become the new puppet king, were all things he could not afford at this very situation. But despite it all starting so well, this was the precise direction they were seemingly heading. After listening to the naive girl Renner, the defense of the capital had been in disarray in the preceding days, as priority had been given to fighting the Eight Fingers and the unrest on the street. Many royal troops had been stationed too far away from the capital, leaving the eastern flank of it exposed, and the gates and walls were barely manned at all, and should have been effortlessly taken. Yet somehow, someone had managed to mobilize enough troops from the surrounding regions in time, and despite an exhausting forced march and a sleepless night, they still held the gates, even after dawn had broken. Though the battle had now shifted inside the city, and the palace had been breached, the Marquis still felt uneasy. If Marquis Raven had sided with the king, his forces would be nearly equal to those of the other aristocrats, combined with the kingly forces. But Marquis Bouloup had fought enough battles on the borderlands near the Ballion Hills to know that everything now hung in the balance, and that he needed to find a way inside the palace quickly. He himself needed to be there, at the heart of power. And while the wards were defended under the leadership of Lockmeyer and the other troops of Raven's personal guards, another plan was being carried out in secret. Disguised as mere mercenaries, 3 armored figures slipped past the outer defensive rings of the royal palace, fighting their way inside while Nazami Anek guarded the Imperial palace. Because this was a doctrine Emperor Jircniv had decided a long time ago. No matter what, at least one of the 4 Imperial Knights needed to remain in the Imperial Palace at all times, while the other 3 were busy in a royal palace of another kind. Because 3 of the Empire's 4 knights, Linus Rock Bruce, Nimbelark de Lanok, and Bazywood Peshmel, were storming the palace. Their objective, the royal chambers. Renner, Zanek, and Ramposa were not meant to survive the night. And then Barbaro would then be crowned king, and after both sides had exhausted themselves, an assassin from Jircniv, or rather, paid by Jircniv from Iangia, would eliminate him as well, leaving the kingdom completely shattered, divided, leaderless, and exhausted. And this way the empire could seize the land unopposed. In contrary, it was expected that they would be greeted as liberators, as a force of order that would finally put an end to the unsightly chaos. And Ramposa had already been taken out. Zanek died fighting to the last, a wooden sword in his hand, an act that even his enemies couldn't help but respect. But now only Renner, the Golden Princess, remained, and she was now the most valuable target, because if she would survive, the people would rally around her, and not the crown prince. And Emperor Jircniv feared her intellect too much to let her live, even though her past reforms had been copied 1-to-1 in the empire. And with practiced swift steps, they now approached the very chamber where Renner was believed to be, a secret hideout. And without the information provided by Marquis Bloom Rouge, they wouldn't have even known it existed. So they kicked open the door, only for Peshmel to immediately be struck by a furious blow of a determined bodyguard. He hastily retreated, allowing Linus Rock Bruce to take the lead. Quite literally, only for Peshmel to immediately be struck by a furious blow of a determined bodyguard. He hastily retreated, allowing Linus Rock Bruce to take the lead and bring this bodyguard to heel, literally because her kick sent Climb flying. And then the 3 knights entered the room without resistance. But Linus quickly held her breath in shock. 3 undead knights, wielding massive shields, stood there protecting the princess. And then from the side, 2 more undead abominations, warriors it seemed, suddenly rammed their twin swords into the bodies of her Imperial comrades. And a third overpowered Linus, tearing the tennis in her arm as she struggled against the undead's grip. And as her life flashed before her eyes, through tears and pain, she caught sight of a golden angel, and it spoke to her. Her eye, cursed to be perpetually disease-ridden and oozing pus, could be healed. Her curse could be broken, and her body could be healed as well, if she joined the kingdom. A single glance at the Death Knights and the mysterious lich controlling them was enough for Linus to recognize that the Golden Princess wasn't bluffing. And as she knelt as best as her injuries allowed, Larkius and the twin assassins arrived, dragging along an ex-colleague of Tia and Tina. The undead being instructed them to lay the corpse alongside the others before uttering words that would haunt Linus for a long time. Create middle tier on that. The next morning, as the sun rose over the battered royal palace, gathered soldiers stood before the Golden Princess, looking upon the only member of the royal family who had ever truly loved the common people, and who was loved back in return. A new hope filled them. Renner then declared that the vile wizard, Fluder Paradane, dabbling in the forbidden arcane undead arts, had stormed the palace with a horde of the undead, attempting to eliminate her, while the Imperial Knights had executed the rest of her royal family. Anger and hate arose inside the soldiers, alongside fear of the upcoming retributive war. But Renner announced that she had managed to take control of the undead using a legendary artifact of her people, of the royal family, a red orb implanted into the leader of these undead. And now the Golden Princess and the Golden Princess alone commanded not only this Black Knight, clad in adamantite armor, but also Fluder Paradane's undead forces. The soldiers let out a sigh of relief as Queen Renner announced that the undead would fight at the front lines in the coming battle, shielding the common soldier, and that they would be led by none other than the princess's own personal bodyguard Climb, who had saved her life. And while the queen spoke, Evil Eye made her way to a comfortable prison cell in the palace, and there Marquis Bloom Rouge was being held, a spy of the Empire, and he was to be turned one way or another. And of course, thoroughly interrogated. And so a trembling nobleman now stood, powerless, before the vampire princess, before landfall, before a legendary member of the 13 heroes, and her arcane might to dominate his mind. And that concludes another thrilling episode of Ainz on level 1. And now, after almost a year, this series has been returned due to popular demand, and to the votes on my Patreon and on my German channel membership. And with that said, now it's your turn. What do you think of this video? Let me know it down in the comments. And no, there will be no Renner leveling occurring in the next few episodes or any abridged series. I mean, one kind of this topic is enough. And with that said, please check out my German channel if you don't want to listen to my voice or accent, but are still interested in the things I have to say. I have made an AI channel, narrated by almost a woman, where I use AI voiceovers for my videos, and the channels are linked down in the video description. Also please check out my Patreon if you want to support me beyond just leaving a like or sub. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel, and as usual, I say my special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Girl Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon S, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Din Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feralchivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Le Louche Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Oh Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Sonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.